Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks on how to make your DHK Maximus even better than when it first came out of the box. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you is the body. Since I'm always having issue with losing body clips, I made this little body clip holder thing out of zip tie. Poked a hole in the body, zip tied it to the clip, and now it's not coming apart. Pretty cool. Let me show you the inside. Then on the inside I put a bunch of Gorilla Tape to give it a little bit more strength. So the inside is another part of a zip tie to hold it in place so it's not coming off. And I've already managed to get these body clips to fly off during some bash sessions, and they actually stayed because of these zip tie. So yeah, if you guys are having issues losing body clips, I suggest you try something like this. I've also done it to my Generation 1 JLB Cheetah, as well as my Generation 2 JLB Cheetah. So yeah, I'm not gonna have any more issues with losing body clips. Thank God. Alright, so let me show you guys the inside of the truck and explain to you some of the things I did to make this truck even better than when it first came out of the box. So anyone who owns a DHK Maximus knows that this truck has a ton of flaws. I mean, this truck always gives issues, but a lot of people tend to give up after a few issues with this truck. But with me, I stuck with it, you know. I didn't give up, and I think I might have got it to the point where it's perfectly dialed for my personal preference. All right, so the first thing I did was these screws down here. They always back out, like always back out, even when you first take it out of the box and bash it. So what I did was I put a screw and a nut behind it. And I also put a Loctite on the nut before I screwed it in, so it's not coming off. And it haven't been coming off. So that's a good thing. And also, the steering plate. The original screw, all it did was screwed into the plate, and there's nothing holding the screw on this side. So during bashes, it's gonna rattle and it's gonna come off. So I put the same screw I use here. I also used it right here with the nut. And another thing is, this screw also has a nut. The steering linkage to the steering arm, because the original screw, all it did was screwed into this plastic arm, and with all the pressure of this linkage pushing back and forth to steer, it's gonna eventually come off. So yeah, I highly suggest you guys put a screw in a nut. And also, I put a spacer in here to raise it up so that it doesn't touch these two wires. And so far, it's working pretty good. And this plastic part is actually a piston ring that goes in here. Well, not in here. This was an extra one from the my Generation 1 JLB Cheetah, which is down there. But yeah, it was an extra part that I had, so I just used it for this, and it actually worked. Alright, just in case you guys are curious about the screws that I used for the lower arm and the steering, it's this one right here. So I got this at Home Depot for under $1. This is the size that I'm using, and you get a pack of 8. Pretty awesome. It's cheap and it works. The power switch. All of my RC cars, power switch goes sideways, because when I put it this way, every time I crash at the front or the rear, it flipped the switch on me. So when you put it sideways, it doesn't flip the switch on you. So that's another tip. The motor fan. you don't really need all 4 screws to hold down the fan. You can either use these 2 screws crisscross to hold the fan, or you can put it side by side, these 2 screws. And I'll explain to you why. The extra screws from these fan can also be used for this part up here because they're the exact same screws. And since I'm showing you this part, let's talk about this part. So let me put the camera down. So this part, man, this part gives me a ton of issues. During bashes, during runs, these screws come loose, even the one down here. And since I'm pointing down there, let me just show you down there. That screw right there, it will come loose. And the bad part about that is, let me show you. It's better to show than explain. So I've already taken this off because I want to show you guys the real issue with this. Alright, so this screw, if you notice, there's a little bend to it. It's gonna happen on both sides, this side and the other side. So during a lot of bashes and crashes, this thing is gonna bend. And then sometime, the screw will break. And it happened to me already. So this is a replacement screw. And let me show you what I did when it broke. Alright, so here's the hub carrier taken apart. And this thing gives a lot of issue. And one of the issue is that when you screw this in and you tighten it up, it's actually smashing the bearing. Same with the bottom screw. So I suggest you do not over tighten this. What you should do is put Loctite and let it sit overnight so it could tighten up itself. Because the more you tighten this, the more you're smashing into the bearing. And when you smash into the bearing don't spin smoothly. There's like a crunching noise or a crunching type of feeling when this CVD axle is spinning on that bearing. So yeah, that's one of the tips. Don't over tighten this. It's gonna smash into the bearing. Same with the bottom screw. And also, the old screw before I replaced this, it broke in half. And the other half was in here. And if you notice, there's cut marks. I took a Dremel and I had to cut this in order to use a regular Phillips screwdriver to unscrew the remaining part of the screw. So that was a hassle. And I don't know if you guys can see in there, that's actually the outside part of this bearing. So yeah, that's one of the tips there. Make sure you don't over tighten this on top and on the bottom because you'll smash into the bearing. And that's one of the flaws with this hub carrier on this DHK Maximus. So what I did was I basically, I put everything back together and then I put this on and I Loctite it and I let it sit overnight to dry so it could harden up and stay there. But yeah, don't over tighten it. It's gonna smash into the bearing. That's the downside with this stuff. So moving along, the top part of the shocks, if you notice, I put a washer there and a washer there. Same with the back. I put a washer right here and a washer right here. And the reason why I did that is because if you notice how close your springs is to the upper arm, without this washer, your spring will rub on this upper arm. And it always happens to me. So I put this washer and now there's actual space right here so it doesn't rub against the springs anymore. So that's another tip. And the back part. Alright, so you guys might think this is silly, but I did it anyways and it actually worked for me. So originally when you bring this truck out of the box, the back wheels are kind of like towed in on both sides. This side will be towed in this way, this side will be towed in this way. And what I did was I took this plastic hub carrier from the left side and I put it on the right side. And then I took the right side and I put it on the left side. And now the back wheels are almost straight. It's ridiculous. And also, the truck performed really good. It's smooth. The turning radius changed dramatically. I was able to make tighter turns and run the truck a little bit smoother just because the back wheels was a little bit more aligned than towed in. Because when it's towed in, you're putting strain on the rear diff, because the rear diff has to put the power to the back wheels that's towed in, and it's basically dragging the back wheel when it could spin freely onto the ground without any, you know, drag. I think that's basically it, guys. That's basically it. If I could think of more, I'll throw it out there, but I think that's basically it. So yeah, screws with a nut, screws with a nut, screws with a nut, and a little bit of spacer so that when you're turning, the linkage don't rub onto the wires here. Power switch going sideways so that it doesn't flip the switch on you when you crash really hard at the front or back. I flipped the carriers in the back, left to right, right to left, to make the back wheel a little bit more straighter than towed in. That actually worked great for me, so I suggest you guys doing that. It's not really a recommendation, it's more of a suggestion. But yeah, don't take my word for it. And also, there was a lot of play back here. So I put a washer, I don't know if you guys can see that. I put a washer in between the carrier and the lower arm right here on both sides. So now there's no more play. It's pretty solid. That's another plus. It actually helps with handling. What else? All right, so let's just recap. Screw here with the nut, screw here with the nut, the steering plate, screw here with the nut on both sides. Washers up here on the top part of the shock so that your spring don't rub against the upper arm. These carriers, don't over tighten this because it goes through and it smashes the bearing, which I'm pretty sure I have already destroyed this bearing by doing that. So that's a tip for you guys to look out for. And that's basically it, guys. So yeah, all of this is just a suggestion, guys. It's not recommended. You don't have to do what I say, but it works for me. So if you guys want to try it out. It might work for you, you know. You never know. You're not gonna know until you try something, but you don't have to take my word for it. Oh yeah, one more thing, guys. Make sure to tune in because I got something new. I got something new for the channel. Guys. I got something new for the channel. Make sure to stay tuned. I'm gonna be unboxing this thing right here. It hasn't been opened yet, so I'm saving it for a time to unbox together with you guys, so you guys could see the first glimpse of it as well as I do. So yeah, cheers, guys.